Is the Phoenix housing market finally going to crash in 2022? This is the question that everybody is asking, and that's what we're going to be talking about in this video, so make sure you stay tuned. We're getting to it right now. Okay, so everybody wants to know what is going to happen with the housing market in 2022. Is it going to slow down? Is the housing market going to crash? Are we finally going to get better home prices like we had 3, 4, 5 years ago? I'm talking about all of my predictions for the future of the Phoenix real estate housing market and all the conditions that are surrounding it in this video. So hit subscribe and let's get to it. Welcome back to my channel. My name is Braiden. I'm a local Phoenix real estate agent here in the Phoenix metro area. And on this channel, we talk about the Phoenix lifestyle, specifically in the Northwest Valley, and real estate market updates, everything you need to know about moving here, listing your home here, buying a house here, all those good things. So hit subscribe and let's get to the topic today. Okay, so I have been hearing so many people talk about this for all of 2021, and as we go into 2022, there are a lot of questions about what is the future of the Phoenix housing market. What does it look like? Are we going to have a crash? Are prices going to drop? And there are so many different factors that contributed to our last housing crash, and so many things that are quite different in today's market than there was at that time. But let's just talk about some of those differences real quick and see if we can draw any parallels. And you know, it's really hard to predict exactly what's going to happen. So I'm going to talk about my experience. I work as a real estate agent every day, full time. That's my job, my business. And I like to seek out the insight of people who professionally analyze these types of things. And, I go on monthly calls and meetings with housing analysts trying to find out the information. So there were quite a few things that were happening with the last housing crash. And one of those was bad lending practices. That was a huge contributing factor to the last crash. I mean, there's so many factors, but that one really, really was bad because people were not having to verify their income, and they were getting approved and getting houses that they could not really afford whatsoever. And that is bad news. And lending practices are extremely different now. It is much harder now to get a loan than it was then. And not to say it's hard to get a loan, but if you're in a good position, you have steady income, you're in a solid place with your finances, it's fine. But people are not qualifying for loans just based on them saying, yeah, I make this amount of money and I have a job, and I can afford this house payment that's probably 4 or 5 times more than what I can actually afford, because that's what was happening last time. And so that was a huge contributing factor. People were in way over their heads. They had really no place being in some of the houses that they were in because they didn't actually have a job, or they didn't have a job that was making the kind of money that they said they were making. And there was just no way to verify, or there wasn't verification of what people were saying and what kind of loans they were getting and if they could actually qualify. So that was a huge, huge thing. There's a lot of other lending practices, that were going on at the time that have really been shaped up. There's a lot of things that have been put into place to make sure that we don't run into that again. Now, the last crash, there was so much inventory. You know that if you had a house at that time and you had put it on the market, you were fighting for a buyer to come to your house, to choose your house over one of the other 7, 10, 15 options they had. And today we have the opposite problem. We have so many people that are looking for houses, but there's not enough houses for how many people are trying to buy. And so that is a completely different situation than what happened with the last crash. And so those two factors alone are huge factors for why I do not think that we're going to hit a market crash in 2022 in the Phoenix metro area. Now, I don't have a crystal ball. I'm not a professional analyst or economist, anything like that. And so that is, I'm prefacing everything I say with that. But if you look at all of the factors surrounding the last crash and what our factors are today, they're completely different. Now, we have so much demand here in the Phoenix metro area. Phoenix is in the top five growing cities across the country. That is huge. People from California are moving here. We've got people moving from colder states, Chicago, and a lot of, states, even Northeast states, escaping the cold, moving here, better taxes, better quality of life. And we also have a whole generation of millennials that are buying their first homes. And then soon, the next generation of young adults is going to be buying their next homes as well. And those are quite a lot of people that are trying to buy their first homes. And so the demand is really, really strong. And the fact of the matter is that after the last crash, building came to a stop. I mean, there was developments that were literally in the middle of being built, and those developments were just put, not even on pause, they just were abandoned and left. And so what we're seeing now is, okay, it's 10 years later, and oh crap, we haven't been building any houses, and we have all these people trying to buy, we have all these people moving into the valley, and we have a literal housing shortage for how much demand there is. Because, it would be great if we had a house for every single family that wanted to buy, or even families that are looking to rent, right? But as of right now, we don't have that. And, if you look at economics, when demand is greater than supply, prices rise, and that's just how it goes. And do you think that with demand being the way it is and the way our city is growing, Buckeye is one of the fastest growing cities in the entire nation, Buckeye, Arizona, and with that, the Phoenix metro area growing, I think that we are going to see a continued pace of growth in 2022. Now, with demand and prices still going to be increasing, I will say that I don't think we're going to see the equity and price increases as drastic here in 2022 as they were this year in 2021. And here's why I say that. The last quarter of 2021, we have seen a slowdown. We've seen bidding wars be less extreme, less multiple offer situations, and less situations where people are just waiving appraisals and inspections. Now, it's still happening, and if you are a homeowner and you still want to take advantage of the market, it's still a very, really, really great time to do so. And if you have the right team behind you, you can really have a strong listing, and we can make sure that we position your home to get you the best terms, as many buyers as we can, right? But the average agent isn't actually helping their homeowner do that. There are some great agents here, but there's also a lot of agents that do not know how to do that, and they do not know how to create that multiple offer situation, or they're not pricing correctly. We've seen a lot of that this last quarter where people are sitting on the market because they're just priced too high, and buyers are saying, you know what, that house is not worth it. And so I think that we're still going to see price growth. And I think if you get into a home in 2022, you're still going to have very strong increases in your equity, but I don't think it's going to be near as drastic as it was this year. I mean, we're talking in 2021, 25%, some people having $50,000 to $100,000 to $200,000 of equity, depending on the price point of their neighborhood this year. That cannot continue to go on forever, right? It's going to slow down. Now, it'll still be good. If you get 3 to 4% in a year, typically that's considered a good increase in equity. Now, we're looking at this year might be 8 to 12% is what I'm hearing from housing analysts and economists that I follow, and I go into their meetings and watch their presentations every month and see what they're saying. And that's kind of the range that they're saying. These are local to the Phoenix metro area and Maricopa County. So I do think that there's potential for really strong equity increases and for you to build that wealth, get your footing into the housing market if you're a first-time home buyer, and start to stabilize your housing costs and everything. But I don't think it's going to be as drastic. So if you're worried about the competing in a multiple offer situation or having to waive your whole life, your firstborn, your car, your college diploma, anything that you can imagine just to get into a house, I don't think it's going to be that bad this year. Now, there's still going to be pretty competitive price ranges. I think anything under $400,000 to $450,000 is still going to be pretty competitive, because that's where we're sitting with the average home prices across the county. So your area specifically, your neighborhood and zip code and city might be a little bit higher or lower than that for the average. So of course, when you get into where the most home buyers are, that's probably going to be the most competitive. But I still think that if you have the right team behind you, that's, you know, where I would say, hey, call me, let's come up with a plan for you. If you have the right team, you have the right strategy in place, we can still get you into a home and deal with whatever the circumstances are going to be in the area that you're buying. But I do think that's going to be the most competitive. Now, the other place where I still think we have a lot of demand for, surprisingly, is over the $1 million range. We saw all of this last year, all of 2021, people that were looking in the luxury home price ranges, 1 million and up here in the Valley, not having options. And I know I had some buyers that I was working with and we just could not find anything. And I was going off market and nobody was wanting to sell with what they were looking for. And it was pretty intense. It was pretty rough because these buyers were thinking, we have a really good budget, $1.3 million, you know, that should be able to get us what we're looking for in the area that they were looking for. But we were just having a really, really hard time. Now, I will say what they were looking for was updated. They thought, okay, if we're spending $1.3 million, we want to update a property, or we want to spend less if we're going to have to put in $100,000, $150,000 to $200,000 into it, right? And we were not finding that. We were finding homes that were not updated. And so when we found a home that was upgraded and it was at the price point they wanted, that's when we found the most competition and we were really struggling. One weekend we went out, the first weekend, and we had no homes for them to look at because by the time they got into town, all but one ended up being under contract, and that I had set the appointments 2 days before. And so if you are in the luxury home price range, you want to move locations, or you're just thinking about selling for whatever reason, I still think that's going to be a really strong price point here in 2022. One of the biggest factors that I think is going to impact the Phoenix housing market this next year is actually going to be interest rates. Now, if you are a home buyer, I'm going to encourage you that if you are going to buy this year, to buy earlier rather than later. And that's not because I'm trying to pressure you into a home, but it's because rates are increasing. Now, historically, they are still amazing. I mean, 4% versus a 12% or even an 8%, that's huge, right? But we want you to buy with the best possible interest rate, and rates are going up. I don't know where they're going to land at the end of the year. Nobody knows that for sure, but we know that they're going up. And we know that every time your interest rate increases, your total affordability goes down. So what you can afford is going to be less the longer you wait into the year. And if you're a homeowner, this is also something to consider, because with how much prices increased this last year and rates starting to increase, we know that demand is going to go down because people's budgets, overall budget, is going to go down once rates increase. And so if you're thinking about selling, the sooner you sell, the more people you're going to have available to you. Now, I still think demand is going to be very strong. I don't think even when rates increase, it's really going to affect demand in the sense that you're going to be fighting for them. But when you're selling, you want as many buyers as possible, especially if you're trying to get the best price and terms. And in that sense, we want to get in front of as many buyers, and we want the most buyers that can comfortably afford your house. And if rates increase and you're kind of on the edge, and we do have a couple of offers, that might kick out one or two of your buyers. And so that is something to consider if you're thinking about selling this year. I still think demand is going to be very strong. I still think it's going to be a great year to buy a home and get equity almost instantly after you move. But these are things that I see with 2022. And while it may not be a crash, and 2016, 2017, 2018 prices, unfortunately, the best time to buy was 5 years ago, right? But I do think that there will be a slowdown and everything will become far less drastic than it was last year, but still a very good time to buy, still a very good time to sell, and potentially even a very good time to invest. I think there's always investment opportunities. Airbnb is becoming a really popular thing here in Phoenix because people are traveling here. We have a lot of people that are here that are, when they move here, they're coming and looking for short-term housing while they figure out where they're going to buy or move, rent, whatever the situation might be. And we also have a lot of tourism activity that's happening more and more all across the valley with all of our sports and spring training and with the student population as well, and families coming into town for those things. So I think that 2022 is going to be an amazing year. I don't think there's going to be a crash, and I'm really sorry if that disappoints you. I am. But I will say that nobody wants to buy in a buyer's market, because when you do, values are typically going down until you catch the bottom, and it's very hard to time. It's so hard to time when you're going to hit the top of the market, when you're going to hit the bottom. But if you buy in a buyer's market, typically you're losing equity almost instantly, meaning you're stuck in a property for longer, versus when you buy in a seller's market and you're gaining equity quickly, you are building literal wealth, and you can go and use that money. You can take it out of your house and refinance and buy an investment property, or pay off debt, or sell and use those funds to buy another property and an investment property. There's so many options for you when you own real estate. And so I think it's going to be a great year for real estate. If I can help you with your real estate needs, please, you can call me, you can text me. I am here for you, and I really would love to help you with your home buying, your home selling, and potentially investing, depending on what it is that your goals are and where you're looking to do that. But please contact me, reach out, and please hit subscribe. It would help so much, and you'll be notified when I release new videos talking about the Phoenix Metro lifestyle and real estate updates for you. So I hope you have a great week and Happy New Year, and I will